The first thing people noticed was the biker's shadow stretching across the sidewalk like a warning, thick and heavy, leather jacket creaking as he slowed his massive bike at the red light, his skull-ringed hands gripping the bars, his face carved with years of scars and regret, the kind of man parents pulled their children away from without thinking twice, and yet in that exact moment, as the city noise blurred into a low hum, a little girl standing near a bus stop lifted her hand and made a small, almost invisible gesture that most adults would have missed, but not him, never him, because some signals are learned the hard way and once you see them, you can never unsee them. Before we go any further into this story, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that even the roughest souls can carry light inside them, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, subscribe to the channel for more real and emotional stories like this, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from, because stories like this connect people across the world in ways nothing else can. His name was Jack Mercer, and the world knew him as something else entirely. To most, he was a hell angel biker, a man whose patched vest and roaring engine screamed danger, trouble, and violence. He had spent decades building that reputation brick by brick, fight by fight, mile by mile across endless highways that gave him freedom but never peace. Jack had grown up learning that weakness was punished and silence was survival, raised in a home where fear lived in the walls and bruises were explained away with lies. By the time he was old enough to ride, anger was the only language he spoke fluently, and the brotherhood of bikers gave him something close to family, even if it came wrapped in chaos. The world judged him by his tattoos and his past, and Jack told himself he deserved it, that some men were built to scare people, not save them. The girl's name was Emily Carter, and she was 7 years old, small for her age, wearing a faded yellow jacket that looked like it had been someone else's before it ever belonged to her. Her eyes were too serious, the kind of eyes that had seen things children shouldn't see, and when she lifted her hand, it wasn't a wave or a plea that anyone nearby recognized. It was a silent signal, subtle and desperate, the kind taught in whispers and online videos meant to protect children who couldn't use their voices. Jack saw it instantly because years ago, in a different life, he had learned the same signal while volunteering at a shelter as part of a court-ordered program he had resented at first and never talked about afterward. That memory slammed into him harder than any punch he had ever taken. The light turned green, cars began to move, and the city continued as if nothing extraordinary was happening, but Jack's world narrowed to that child and the man standing just behind her, a man whose hand rested too firmly on her shoulder, whose smile didn't reach his eyes. Jack felt the familiar urge to keep riding, to mind his own business, to avoid trouble, because trouble had a way of finding him even when he wasn't looking for it. His club had rules, and one of them was simple: don't draw attention, don't get involved in things that bring heat. Yet the little girl's hand trembled as she lowered it, her eyes flicking toward Jack for the briefest second, filled with a hope that terrified him more than any enemy ever had. Jack pulled over, the bike's engine cutting off with a final growl that echoed like a decision being made. People nearby stiffened, some stepping back, others watching with curiosity and fear. Jack walked toward them slowly, every step dragging memories behind him, memories of being small and powerless, of wishing someone, anyone, would notice. The man with the girl straightened, his posture defensive, his grip tightening, and Jack felt anger rise, hot and familiar, but he forced it down. Violence had been his solution for most of his life, and it had never fixed anything that truly mattered. What happened next didn't involve shouting or fists or dramatic heroics. Jack positioned himself between the man and the girl, using nothing but his presence, his size, and the unspoken understanding that he was not someone to be easily pushed aside. He stayed calm, steady, his eyes locked forward, his mind racing through options, through consequences, through the realization that whatever happened next would change more than just this moment. The man tried to laugh it off, to brush past him, but Jack didn't move, and the stillness unnerved everyone watching. Minutes stretched into something heavy and uncertain. Someone nearby pulled out a phone, another whispered, and eventually authority arrived, drawn by tension and instinct. Jack stayed exactly where he was, a wall built from scars and resolve, until the situation unraveled under the weight of scrutiny. The truth came out the way it often does, piece by piece, ugly and undeniable. Emily was taken gently aside, wrapped in a jacket that actually fit her, her small hand gripping the sleeve of a social worker who knelt to her level. She kept looking back at Jack, her expression a mix of fear and relief, and when their eyes met again, she gave the smallest nod, as if to say thank you for seeing me. Jack expected nothing after that. He rode away before anyone could ask his name, before praise or questions could land, because he didn't do this for recognition. He rode with a tight chest and blurred vision, the road stretching endlessly ahead, the city shrinking behind him. For days afterward, the image of Emily haunted him, but not in the way nightmares haunt you. It was softer, heavier, like a reminder he couldn't shake. He started noticing things he had trained himself to ignore: tired faces, flinching movements, small signs of silent suffering all around him. Weeks passed, and Jack found himself parking outside the same community center he once resented, walking in without being ordered, sitting quietly in the back during meetings meant to educate and protect. People stared at him at first, uncertain, afraid, but he stayed. He listened. He learned. He began volunteering again, this time not because a judge told him to, but because he couldn't live with himself if he didn't. His brothers noticed the change, teased him, questioned him, but Jack stood firm, discovering that real strength wasn't about fear anymore, it was about showing up when it mattered most. Emily was placed with a foster family, one that understood trauma and patience, and though Jack never saw her again, he heard updates through careful channels, each one a quiet victory. She started school, made friends, learned to laugh without looking over her shoulder. Jack carried that knowledge like a talisman, a reminder that one moment of courage could ripple outward in ways no one could predict. The biker the world once feared became something else entirely, not because he lost his edge, but because he found his purpose. Jack Mercer was still rough, still loud, still intimidating, but now there was intention behind his actions, a watchfulness born from empathy rather than anger. He started teaching others about the silent signals, using his reputation to demand attention for things that mattered, proving that even men forged in darkness could choose to protect light. If this story touched something deep inside you, if it reminded you that heroes don't always look the way we expect and that paying attention can save a life, take a moment to like, share, and engage with this video, because your support helps stories like this reach people who might need them more than they know. Before the ending, please comment and tell us what this story made you feel and whether you believe one person can truly change another person's life. Somewhere out there, a little girl grew up knowing that when she silently asked for help, someone heard her, and somewhere on an open road, a Hell Angel biker rode forward carrying the quiet truth that redemption doesn't roar, it listens, and sometimes, it starts with a single raised hand and a man brave enough to stop and see it.